26. He's got 26. 2:52 to go. Butler. Duncan Robinson, open corner three. That's
slide by to an elite shooter like that, giving him a high percentage look of hit play.
Timeout, Darko.
The Raptors had 4 days off to rest and reset from an ugly loss to the Knicks, but it would be no simple task against the Miami Heat tonight. Even without Bam Adebayo or Tyler Hero, Miami knows how to keep things interesting when they play the Raptors, and tonight was a grind. Both teams went on runs and showed flashes, but ultimately it was the Heat who closed it out in the fourth quarter in convincing fashion.
Every game is important. Every game has a value. We're approaching every game, preparing the best we can to execute offensively and defensively. I thought that our discipline was not where it needs to be tonight. On offensive end as well, we went away in the second half of finding open man and finding early passes. Defensively as well, we just did not do what we're supposed to do there.
In the first half, the Raptors started out sluggish, scoring 7 points through the first 6 minutes of the game. Meanwhile, the Heat caught fire, thanks to Caleb Martin, who dropped 23 points in the first half, along with 4 threes. Still, despite the hot shooting from Miami, it was the Raptors who clawed back and took a 2-point lead heading into halftime. In the first half, where defense seemed optional, it was the Raptors' offense who helped them get cooking, thanks in large part to Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, who combined for 34 points on 15 shots along with 9 assists. But in the second half, Miami opened up on a 12-0 run. The Raptors answered back with another run of their own to end the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, it was all Miami.
Start of the game, I thought we did a good job at the rim, and they did not score. They made 5 threes, and some of those shots open, some of those heavily contested. They got hot. That happens. But what happened there in the third quarter is something that we're going to definitely watch on the film and address everything that happened there. We cannot be the team that plays defense only when we are scoring. We gotta be the team that if things are not working for us, I thought that in those stretches that we're getting pretty good looks. We missed layups, we missed threes, but that affected our defense, and our body language was not good enough on the defensive end. Focus, mental mistakes. You know, in the first half we had only 2 turnovers. We had 8 turnovers to start that third quarter, and they went on a 16-0 run.
The Raptors bench did a good job of keeping up with Miami's depth. Precious Achiuwa and Gary Trent Jr. combined for 24 points, and for the most part, anytime those two or Malachi Flynn and Otto Porter Jr. played, things went well for the Raptors. Pascal and OG finished the game with a combined 53 points on 26 shots, 12 assists, and no missed free throws, but it was the other starters who struggled immensely. This was a tough matchup for Jacqeuz, who struggled to chase around the Heat shooters around dribble handoffs, and Dennis Schroder and Scottie Barnes shot a combined 9 for 35, and you're just not going to win a lot of games when your starters struggle that badly.
Well, it's pretty frustrating, so we're just going to try to watch the film, see what we messed up on, what we can do better, and just try to end it and start coming out stronger in the third quarters.
I think it's 5 of the last 6 games now that the starters have been outscored in their minutes. Would you consider making a change to that group, or are you not quite at that point yet?
We gotta figure it out. Like being outscored, how much of that is a problem defensively, how much of that the problem is offensively. That's always the question there.
Now, by the time you watch this, in all likelihood, I will have a piece out debating whether the Raptors should be changing their starting lineup soon, because their starters have started to struggle together as a unit. But tonight, I want to highlight something that's somewhat related. The Raptors made a run in the third quarter to cut into Miami's lead with a lineup of Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and Otto Porter Jr. It should be their ideal small ball lineup, and we haven't seen a lot of it, but I've been meaning to watch this lineup for quite some time, and the Raptors finally did it, and they probably should tap into it a little bit more. So let's get into the film room. Okay, so some of these plays have different versions of this lineup. The small ball lineup isn't fully actualized with the exact group that I mentioned. It is for a few possessions here, and they were successful. But Dennis Schroder pops in there, Precious Achiuwa pops in there. But I think the theme of this lineup is the fact that you can space the floor immensely. The fact that you can have a non-shooter like Dennis Schroder on the floor, or a non-shooter like Precious Achiuwa on the floor. Yes, I know those guys have been hitting shots, especially Dennis Schroder to start this year has been hitting shots, but for the most part, not below average shooters, if you will. And honestly, I think the reason you can do that is because there's so much space between OG, between Gary, between Otto Porter Jr. Those are your three best shooters on this team. Grady Dick will eventually become one of those, but those are your three best right now. And it opens up things tremendously for Pascal. It opens up things tremendously for Scottie and for OG himself. That is the fully actualized version of if this team were to ever be successful with that three-headed monster. It's having space like Otto Porter Jr. It's having space like Gary Trent Jr. in that same lineup. So let's get into it. There's a turnover now, and this possession is great because you see the threat that Pascal Siakam poses to defenses. As soon as Pascal catches this ball, Kyle jumps in to try to stop that driving lane, to really build a wall around what Pascal can do to attack the basket. He uses that. The Raptors use that to their advantage. You see Pascal set a screen for Gary Trent Jr. Again, they are trying to make sure that Pascal isn't the one receiving this ball. Gary can step in to a nice mid-range jump shot. And defensively, I think this group can be really special too. You see OG Anunoby obviously navigating through a couple of screens. You trust him in all aspects in that. Scottie Barnes gets out to the shooter. Otto Porter Jr. helps. OG Anunoby with a great flyby. And then the Raptors are, they're set. They actually recover very, very well. Jimmy Butler is in the post. Otto Porter Jr. is a big body who can sort of handle himself there. It creates a bit of a rotation situation. The Raptors defense is on a string. You see them getting out to shooters. It ends up in basically a shot clock violation for the Miami Heat. That is being on a string, that is communicating well, but that is also moving and being active on the defensive end. The Raptors were able to switch a bunch in that and be comfortable in switching, and that's huge when it comes to, just being effective on the defensive end with these small ball units. This time in transition, but just to show you the space that is created from guys like Otto Porter Jr. You see Pascal Siakam collapse the defense, and Otto, you trust a guy who's a near 40% shooter hitting it from the corner there. That's a shot you can trust in. I thought OG was really excellent in this game as well, but, Pascal Siakam creates this driving lane for him by drawing all the help. You see Jaime Jacqeuz at the nail. You see Kevin Love stepping up on that. So OG is able to attack this closeout with a little bit more force and finish it. This is a great finish by OG, but that was created by Pascal. And of course, the Raptors are still going to feast in transition. Scottie is a threat. Pascal is a threat. OG is a threat. And that actually helps Gary Trent Jr. feast. He had 15 points tonight. A lot of them because of that. Another example of this draw and kick stuff that they can do with this unit. This time, Precious Achiuwa setting the screen. Scottie Barnes with a great skip pass to the corner. And again, it makes Miami's defense in rotation. Wide open shot for Gary Trent Jr. And so the Raptors, in those lineups for the most part, without Schroder, without Jacqeuz, they found success. And I think ultimately that does have to do with, one, being more of a scoring threat. You sort of, you put the ball in Pascal's hands, you put the ball in Scottie's hands, you put the ball in OG's hands, and it actually creates some space for you because their own spacing issues aren't exasperated. Obviously, Scottie Barnes has improved as a three-point shooter this season. OG Anunoby is a great three-point shooter, but Pascal is very much so struggling in the shooting department. Now, he hit some shots tonight from behind the arc, but still struggling for the most part. You can alleviate that by having Otto Porter Jr. out there. You can alleviate that by having Gary Trent Jr. out there because you are now asking them to be the play finishers versus when it's the starters, it's Pascal Siakam being the play finisher. It's Scottie Barnes being the play finisher because the ball is in Schroeder's hand so often, because the ball is in Jacqeuz's hand so often, those high post actions. When you're prioritizing touches for those guys, you're also forcing your worst shooters to be the spacers when it comes to, Scottie and Pascal. Again, Scottie is improved, but still. And I think that small ball lineup finds so much success for one reason. It puts the ball in the hands of the Raptors' best players, in Pascal, in Scottie, in OG. And instead of asking them to be these floor spacers for you, asking them to stretch out their skill sets a little bit, you're actually accentuating their strengths by putting shooting around them. So the Raptors made a run in that third quarter. They weren't able to close it out in the fourth. It was a strugglesome game, like I mentioned, for Scottie. It was a strugglesome game for Dennis, but ultimately that lineup was really intriguing because I think the Raptors are headed towards a starting lineup change. I was on wax about this before the season. I thought it would make more sense to have Dennis Schroder come off the bench and have Gary Trent Jr. start because of the spacing issues and because I think, with the Raptors' bench concerns, having a lead guard like Schroder to be your sixth man just creates a little bit more stability for that bench unit. So now you have Schroder, you have Otto Porter Jr., you have Precious, you have Chris Boucher, you have, you can even throw in Grady Dick in there. I ultimately, Malachi, I think those units will have more success when you have a player like Schroder. And he can commandeer the offense at those points because he'll need to commandeer the offense at those points. You don't want him to do that with the starters. Anyways, I will have a piece on that at some point today. You'll probably see it on my Twitter. But yes, thank you very much for tapping in. If you are interested in listening to non-Raptors stuff, NBA stuff, pretty much everything. The in-season tournament, ladies and gentlemen, semifinals should be tonight. Should be awesome. And we're going to react to that. Yeah. Follow the Objective Basketball Podcast. Listen to the Objective Basketball Podcast with Lauren and I. We'll see you later.